as a creative director, which I've been for a long time, some of the most important things that I've done is say, yeah, that's it. You know, like the job of a creative director is not to create, right? It's to look at his team's ideas and help shape them, figure out which ones have potential, which ones don't, shape them, help the client see why they can work, help bring them to life in a way. Execution does matter, right? All
Mm.
those things. So, with that in mind, like that's kind of really informs how I see the role of tools. Um, for certain things like, you know, depending on like when you're doing concepting, right? Like you should always ask for ideas, right? Like why wouldn't you go to ChatGPT and ask for an idea or Gemini or Claude, like these are powerful tools and you won't get perfect ideas. You have to be talented and experienced to recognize those great ideas, but you know, like having that quick, easy fonts of information of inspiration gives you something to shape. I mean, same thing with graphic design. You're not going to get a logo for an enterprise company, right? But when you do a branding project, right? There's pages and pages and pages of pencil sketches that are like the first round, right? Why not do some of that exploration, enhance that exploration, and then take the ideas that you see and shape them into
Right.
something even better? And I think that's why I think professional creativity will not go anywhere.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the e-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm super excited to have Adam Kleinberg on with me today because he's actually, as the founder and CEO of Traction, has actually pivoted his brand a couple of times over the years. So I'd love to hear that origin story as well as what you're doing now and what the elevator pitch is. Thanks so much for joining me, Adam.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I started Traction way back in 2001. I had kind of been a graphic designer or an art director, and I worked at a bunch of agencies. There was a shop called Think New Ideas back then, and then there
Sure.
was, it was 2001 was like the dot bomb, right? Like all the entire economy of the Bay Area was like kind of built on a deck of cards, and it all kind of collapsed. And um, I had been at Tribal DDB, and we left there, me and some of my friends, and started Traction in the spare bedroom of my apartment. And ironically, we were originally called Traction Cooperative. We didn't really intend to start an agency. We were just going to be like this freelance co-op where we threw each other work. And kind of an idea ahead of its time. It was
Mhm.
it's interesting. That's kind of more like Traction's model today, where we're this marketing accelerator that uses a liquid workforce, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, we started, and I think what at the time made us different was that we were an integrated agency from day one. And while now that's kind of more common, back then it was very rare. Um, and but we had just worked at different agencies. We felt at the time that we were the strongest digital creative team in San Francisco. Whether we were or not, I don't know, but we believed it. Um, and we kicked off and started in the spare bedroom of my apartment. And a couple of years later, my wife got pregnant and threw us out. So we got an office, and within like 3 months, we had Macro Media as a client, and then that ultimately became Adobe, and that relationship lasted a decade. We had SAP, like a B2B a technology company at the time, was the largest enterprise software company in the world. And we had Bonnie Doon Vineyards, which was this wacky, this vineyard owned by this kind of wacky dude, and had a kind of quirky sense of humor. And we were able to, win a Webby doing their website, and really, kind of built the agency up from that point. A couple of years later, Apple came knocking, and we've had Apple now as a client for 18 years. Um, and really, a lot of the DNA of traction is from that relationship, and really having to deliver at that level of rigor and excellence for such a long time. And we've had a great run. We had this incredibly cool office, and um, it was all like brick and timber, and had skylights and giant 20-foot tall ficus trees, desks along catwalks and spiral staircases. It was in right off of California Street in San Francisco. But we won a few Agency of the Year awards and Ad Age award, so we were doing great for a while. But I started to see like the market changing. Clients were taking more in-house. A lot of agency people used to say, "Oh, it's going to ebb and flow," and I don't believe that at all. I think that that was a fundamental shift that was happening in the market, and I wanted to better be able to collaborate. There was just a range of problems that clients were facing and challenges. And we had one team, and the primary metric of agencies is billable utilization. So they collect all these, full-time employees, and now you got to keep them fed. So that becomes the every problem looks like a nail because I have a hammer issue that so many agencies face. And I think I've had an since 2001, like an integrated mindset as well, like to be able to figure out solutions and then be able to execute on them. So in 2019, I pivoted the company, and we kind of created a what we call a liquid workforce. So it's highly fractional talent, and that's allowed us to bring in, like, we've taken all the overhead, got rid of the office, um, went to a remote model. And this was pre-COVID, that we started to make that evolution. So when COVID came and everyone started working from home, we were already 6 months down that path, which was great for us because we were able to just react more nimbly and actually eke out some growth that year. Um, and over the next 3 years, we doubled in size, um, and we picked up clients like LinkedIn and HelloFresh and GE Healthcare and Major League Baseball and um, Dentsply Sirona, the largest dental supply company in the world. And we've got a $10 billion retailer that we're working with. Um, some really great brands, that we've had the good Graco, the baby strollers, Compound W Warts, like a really diverse range of clients, doing everything from media to creative to MarTech consulting to even operations consulting, and of course strategy and development code, and really having this kind of fabric that we of both boutique strategic partners and individuals, that kind of make up the liquid workforce.
Mhm.
Allows us to be super nimble and invest in more senior talent that works directly on our clients' business. So clients have people who are like the former VP of marketing at Nordstrom, or former top media executive at Unilever, or the head of North American marketing from Lululemon, or the VP of growth from former VP of growth from Canva, like these are major freaking brands and major people who had incredible success. We have a design director who was the head of design at CNN, um, for the entire digital experience, the whole design system there. So we're able to bring in like incredible talent, and engage with them more efficiently, leaner teams, and have a more competitive rate with more senior people, uh, because of that. And I think when we started, I wanted to be able to compete with not only the best marketing, creative and media agencies, but I wanted to also be able to compete with McKinsey and Accenture, and we're doing that. You know, obviously we're much smaller in scale, but we're doing like MarTech consulting, operations consulting, like things that in the past we really never would have had the opportunity to do, and that's resulted in deeper trust, deeper relationships, and really the opportunity to solve some of the most meaningful challenges of my career for these companies.
That's awesome. Congrats on that pivot and for psychically knowing that, work from home had to be the future there with regards to that. Fractionalized talent, obviously, also being another big trend. It's interesting because I would tend to agree with you in a sense that, um, when marketing is complex, brands often want to have tighter level of control. And the way we end up sort of solving that problem with Did It, which started out as a SaaS company, right? And now it looks much more like an agency after 11 acquisitions, but is to really go into a lot of clients like the Peace Corps and basically saying, we can come in and train your teams and teach them how to fish and farm and, build schools. And then, if you still need us, we won't go away. And if you don't need us anymore, that's okay too, right? We
Yeah,
got you where you need to go. And so it's a different way of attacking a similar problem, right? Which is the fact that CMOs at many brands are like, listen, this stuff's too important to fully outsource. We don't want to hand the keys to the Lamborghini to some kid who doesn't know how to drive.
yeah. Um, that's similar to the way that we're operating with some of our clients, and it's really about what being able to map to their needs. And you take HelloFresh, for example, like had a natural buoyant accelerant during COVID, right? People were home, so home meal kits were something to do, and something to enjoy. And as COVID was ending, like not only was that artificial um, you know propellant of demand gone, but they had grown so fast, so organically, that their marketing ops were a mess, right? Their
Mm.
media buying ops were a mess. So we were able to go in, parachute in, clean up their media operations, help them achieve their lowest customer acquisition cost, train their team, and then leave, and then like 6 months later, they had another need. They brought us back in, and we're helping now. We're working on their Green Chef brand. Uh,
Cool.
so
So yeah, the I know you're working on the Future Proof project as well. I'd love you to share a little bit about that.
yeah, so the other, thing that's really unique and different about Traction is that we've created a think tank, a community of over 185 brands, leaders, CMOs, VPs of marketing, senior directors from important brands. And we've been helping create an environment and a community where these brands can um, help one another on their journey with emerging technology to kind of convert that emerging technology into competitive advantage. So, we do like thought leader events, we do dinners, and online events as well. We've started now doing workshops. So really kind of going from just like introducing high level concepts to helping brands leverage design thinking to start to like identify the use cases, think through the issues that they're going to need to create enterprise adoption, right? There's, you know, it's very different, right? From you individually saying, "Oh yeah, I use ChatGPT. I'm pretty good at prompting," right? And I even changed my LinkedIn to prompt engineer, but it's very different than having a repeatable process, methodology, way of working that is governable, that is repeatable, um, and that you can kind of spread across an organization. So we're helping drive that adoption and think through those issues, think through, what problem. Not every tool is right for the same issues, right? Like if you look at different use cases, I always show this image of two the same prompt. I went on Mid-Journey, created, and I went on Adobe Firefly. The image from Mid-Journey gave me this beautiful woman with flowing hair and a dark thing. She looked like it was like a movie poster, right? For like an action film or a mystery, right? Adobe for the exact same prompt gave me a picture of like a photo of a woman that I might be sitting next to on the bus, right? So as a creative, as a marketer, right? Like what are your goals? Like what are you trying to do? And mapping the right tools um, are going to be critically important. What tools are you already using, right?
Yeah.
What tools are your team work using that you don't need to, like there's tools from Adobe now and Canva, among others, that are embedding AI right into their tools. So these standalone applications are super powerful, but they all have different um, things to consider. Um, IP is another one, right? Like there's certain risk averse, a lot of organizations are very risk averse. All of a sudden, like what is the LLM based on? Is that proprietary or is that public data? And could that cause some risk down the road? Um, you know, like I think many people are like, oh, well, let Google deal with that. They're the ones doing it. But I think, a lot of institutions are not that fluid.
Yeah.
So but so that's been great. So we've been going in, helping companies identify ideas, opportunities, and then bring them to life.
Yeah, I mean, while we have a creative team that did it, we're more of sort of a earned media and paid media shop. But I always have conversations with my creative teams about to what extent they consider AI on the creative side to be sort of a tool in their tool chest versus sort of something that actually replaces some of what they're doing. And then obviously they all think of it as a tool, perhaps a more powerful tool, and they're able to get things done more quickly or get ideate in a very different way than they would on copy or on images. And
Hmm.
then on the coding side, obviously it's made my coding teams on the development side 5 to 7 times faster, which is just incredible. But I'd love to hear from the creative perspective how you think about AI as a tool in the tool chest.
Oh, I think there are multiple points in the creative process that it's great, right? Like there's certain tools that allow you to integrate templates, right? So, even just starting at the research phase, you can develop personas, query those personas, start to do like focus groups, without actually doing people. We have a client that has been reduced the amount of time that they take for insights generation from months to days, right?
Mhm.
Um, and is it perfect? Is it comprehensive? Who knows? Like on one hand, like, yeah, if I go talk to my wife, I may get something that I wouldn't have gotten, you know, from this mass amount of data that's being mined. But at the same time, if I go to that mass amount of data, I might get something that my wife hadn't thought of. So, you know, like I think there's a lot to believe in there. And on, ultimately, before I get into like the specific answer to your question, like, as a creative director, which I've been for a long time, some of the most important things that I've done is say, yeah, that's it. You know, like the job of a creative director is not to create, right? It's to look at his team's ideas and help shape them, figure out which ones have potential, which ones don't, shape them, help the client see why they can work, help bring them to life in a way. Execution does matter, right? All
Mm.
those things. So, with that in mind, like that's kind of really informs how I see the role of tools. Um, for certain things like, you know, depending on like when you're doing concepting, right? Like you should always ask for ideas, right? Like why wouldn't you go to ChatGPT and ask for an idea or Gemini or Claude, like these are powerful tools and you won't get perfect ideas. You have to be talented and experienced to recognize those great ideas, but you know, like having that quick, easy fonts of information of inspiration gives you something to shape. I mean, same thing with graphic design. You're not going to get a logo for an enterprise company, right? But when you do a branding project, right? There's pages and pages and pages of pencil sketches that are like the first round, right? Why not do some of that exploration, enhance that exploration, and then take the ideas that you see and shape them into
Right.
something even better? And I think that's why I think professional creativity will not go anywhere. I think writing, it's harder to because like I do a lot of writing for the industry press, for example, right? And I've been blogging for 25 years. And the thought leadership when I do a blog post still might be mine, but um, often the words I'm using these tools, but I'm prompting and I'm reprompting and I'm shaping. Like I'm not doing something like I'm putting elaborate prompts in. I'm what's kind of become commoditized is the shaping of that into grammatically correct sentences and organizing your thoughts, right? Like these tools are incredible at organizing and processing, finding patterns, right?
Hmm.
So what might have taken me like hours and hours to think through how do I want to, it gives me an outline, and I have a very distinct voice, like so I don't um I value you know my sense of humor and attitude and way of seeing the world and talking about the world when I'm doing writing. But now, Gemini allows you to create a reference document that you can emulate the voice. So I'm planning on kind of taking all my writing, putting it in a document. I haven't done it yet because things are moving so fast, but like starting to create something that clones my writing style. But still the ideas are going to be mine. Still
Yeah.
knowing what output is going to come, I'm looking for is going to come from here. So the tools to get you there um, are going to change.
Right.
Same time, like a lot of the I'll call it crap work because creatives that I've worked with for my entire career have always hated this stuff, right? Resizing banner ads or, I need a LinkedIn version and I need a carousel version and I need all these versions. And I remember like 15 years ago sitting at the bar with this guy who was a creative director at Gray. And we were at a conference and he and I kind of just struck up a conversation. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, man, if our business is going to be like getting paid $1,000 a pop to resize banner ads. It's not the business I want to be in. It's not a very good business model. And it's not, right? Like that's completely commoditized work, as efficient as you can do it. Get rid of that stuff. And some of the tools that we have right now, you don't necessarily need to go get a new tool. Like,
Yeah.
um, Facebook has, AI selection tools. You used to have to sit there if you wanted to make a complex selection, you would have to sit there with a Bezier tool, which is like a pen that you can kind of like manipulate the curves on super detailed level, and you would scale something up. You might spend 3 hours making a selection if you were trying to mock something up or use something that was going to be like in a composite image. Now you do that like that, right?
Right.
And I mean, you could do it like this on your phone, right? Like, and copy and paste the subject out of there. So, the intelligence of the existing tools, Canva is another one that's doing incredible things using AI to, you don't even realize you're using AI sometimes, right? To like make um, decisioning super easy for you, recommending formats like, um, I imported an image into a Canva presentation. It was a kind of a gradient that I was using in the background of a template. And it took that same gradient and restructured it in 5 different ways, or 6 different ways, or 8 different, whatever it was. And it gave me those as suggested alternative backgrounds without me even asking.
Right.
Right. So that's pretty brilliant. It's just a little thing. But each of those little things really add up to dramatic efficiency.
Hmm.
And now you're even being able to see like um, the ability for um, to expand a brand toolkit, right? So you can create photo styling, right? Like you could have your own, let's say I want like all my images to be a duotone with dramatic lighting, like, and have that kind of in all my photos for my brand, right? A distinct photo style or image style. You can create that image style in Midjourney and have it kind of reference that every time you manipulate an image. You can now create repeating characters. So you can create a character and have that same character, show up in 100 different, like become your brand mascot.
Yeah, we're actually looking to experiment with that because we've got under Giving Forward, we've got good picks where we do the charity headshots at conferences and events. And
Yeah,
I already experimented with Midjourney where I can create like a superhero or a pirate. Then I can merge the headshot of the person into it, right? Put their face on it and essentially create that new character. And
yeah.
it just seems like it'll be really fun to send an email out and say, are you a marketing superhero? Right? And include a picture of the person as a marketing superhero. I mean, it's a little creepy, but we're looking forward to testing it
Yeah,
anyway.
and part of it is just having the time, right? But like curiosity right now is such a compelling, important attribute for anyone in marketing. If you're not curious, if you're not running toward the future, you're kind of screwed. And it's been great at Traction for us to kind of bring together this future-proof project and the learnings, the resources, the people, a lot of the brands that are now working for us, like came to us through the Future Project, and now they've moved on from positions and want to be part of this new AI world and are consulting for our clients, which is incredible, right? After having a track record of success at the companies that they've done it before. So, um, you know, um, it's having the experienced humans who can get the results when they're given extraordinary tools. That's how magic gets created.
Yeah, I guess the next generation of Magic, which has had a few false starts, would be AR and VR, right? It's sort of like mobile. Every year was the year of mobile. And then
Yeah,
finally it was actually the year of mobile. It took like 6 or 7 years. And I sort of feel like AR and VR have gone through a couple of false starts. But at the same time, the opportunity there, if it actually executes well, is potentially gigantic, right? Whether it's AR or VR. So I'd love to get your thoughts on sort of how the future project or how marketers in general should view that, right? Because it's definitely a shiny object, but there's a limit to sort of where it's been executed successfully at this point.
Um, I just had um, I just had a call earlier today with a woman I know. She was my client, or she never even hired us. We were pitching them and they were going to hire us, and then she left her job before she had a chance to hire us at Black Angus Steakhouse 15 years ago. And since then she wound up kind of working at Glue Mobile, and then they got acquired by EA, and now she's joined this startup, or as a founding member of the startup called Astroblocks, that is kind of an AI version of Roblox,
Mhm.
right? And or similar to Roblox, in terms of how you can like build your own world, and but
Yeah.
do it all with voice prompts, or natural language prompts. We were having this conversation earlier, about the Apple Vision, which I have, and she also has, being in the gaming world, and the Oculus Pro, which I haven't experienced. I have an Oculus, but not the Oculus Pro. And she was saying she prefers the Oculus Pro, which is interesting. And um, I love my Apple Vision, like the fidelity, the fact that it's augmented reality first, not virtual reality.
Mhm.
Um, it makes it so much better, right? So I can be in a room and see what's around me and not feel like I'm completely cut off from my surroundings. Um, like everything I watch, like as soon as my family goes to bed, I turn off the TV and I put this on because I can watch like an IMAX screen instead of the TV across.
Right.
And it's powerful, right? Like the ability to little things like someone making eye contact with you. But what is this going to mean for brands? Well, there'll be brands who have their products, like there'll be like, more immersive apps, right? And, games are starting this, right? I played Fruit Ninja last night with my daughter, right? We got up and we were kind of slicing watermelons in the air, um, which was fun. Um, but you're also starting to see brands that are creating new kinds of experiences for retail. In general, with retail, like the big box is being replaced with the small footprint experiential retail. Um, and that is going to be kind of taken to a new level with these AR VRs. Um, you know, Lowe's, for example, has a kitchen designer with the Apple Vision. So you can like look at a wall, change out the cabinets, change out the sink, whatever you look at, you can just click on, um, and redesign a kitchen, get a sense of like the different materials that they offer. And that's just the first experience that they've created. Others like Decathlon and who else? Alo, the yoga pants company, Lululemon competitor, both launched um, shops in the Apple Vision at launch, and those are more just like typical websites that have floating 3D windows and are kind of cool.
Mhm.
Like I can take my shopping cart, move it over here maybe, or you know put this up and interact and kind of a more in-depth level, but you can see where things are going, right? And the potential to
Sure.
do what Lowe's is doing, I think is going to reinvent retail. And I'll just add one more thing to that. Like, while we're still looking at these big clunky headsets, right? This is the battery from my Apple Vision, right? I got to put that in my pocket and
Yeah.
plug it in, um, that's not always going to be the case. I
Yeah.
went to augmented World Expo conference last year, and like some of the base use cases of like, I don't need a monitor anymore. Like my monitor is hovering in space. There are glasses as thin as the ones you're wearing right now that offer that functionality,
Mhm.
right? So if there's glasses that can do some of this stuff, right? And there's big headsets that can, that's going to converge, right?
Yeah.
So you are going to see um, probably glasses that have the capability of an Apple Vision. Maybe it'll be 10 years, but it's going to come.
Yeah. Well, rate of change is faster than ever before. So I think that's one thing that we're all dealing with as marketers, both on the agency side and
Yeah.
internally, is the rate of change is has been fast, and I feel like it's actually getting faster. So if you
Yeah.
don't want to get left behind, you better be paying attention to a lot of things.
I know. I'm paying attention. I got to get one of these posters behind me. It says traction for when I do podcasts, I guess.
Exactly. So one other thing that I'd love your perspective on, especially now that you've sort of taken on a more holistic role for your clients, is, it used to be back when we got into media, that the more media you bought, the cheaper it got, right? So if you were buying 50 spots on the radio station, you went to them, you said, I'll buy 100, price would go down. Now everything's auctioned, so the price goes up the more you buy, which means like everything needs to be humming. Your creative better be spot on against the spot on audience, right? You screw up at any one of these things, you could screw up your creative, you could screw up your media, you could screw up your segmentation, marketing, right? If you screw it up anywhere, you can't afford the media because somebody else is doing a better job and they can afford the media and you can't. So I'd love to get your viewpoint on that. Like, I feel like that's created almost a creative renaissance, right? Because if the creative is bad, you're out, right? You can't even play.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of the word creative gets thrown around a lot, right?
Right,
And if you're looking at like a programmatic banner ad, are you actually looking at creative? Or, if you think of like, this is my face and I'm very beautiful, right? This is my creative that I've created. Like banner ads like nail polish that are like the right brand colors, right? So like, do I need to do great creative? Like I remember we used to sit there as creatives, like I remember freelancing at McCann and they gave me a template, which was like a sheet of paper that had like 6 frames of the banner ad to storyboard on.
right,
It's like their process. Like what a waste of time. And, ironically, like not effective to have banner ads that are like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like, builds attract eyes, but, no one's reading your banner ad and going through all your messaging. So I think understanding what creative is really creative and what just needs to be on brand and an offer, right? Like, is important, and AI will be able to execute all those just an offer type things in the
yeah,
future. Um, but yeah, I do believe that wholeheartedly that like, you're putting media out there. We all see a thousand ads a day, hundreds of ads a day that we in one ear out the other, you completely forget them, right? Um, and you might browse online and not barely even see, but those ads that are memorable, you could last forever, right? And just when you start to look at media performance, strong creative works better, it does. And I mean, we did a campaign for actually for Meta. So we're doing like Facebook ads on Facebook, you know, ads for Facebook on Facebook and improving the creative, give them an 84% lift in conversion. Now that's an outlier. The creative before must have been pretty freaking bad, right?
right,
But like when you think about the fact that a media spend is usually 80%, eight 4x what or 5x what the creative budget is, um, and the a little bit more of investment in good creative can make that other 80% work so much harder. It seems like really myopic not to try and get your creative work to be as great as it could be.
Yeah, that actually brings me to sort of that big picture idea, right? So when I was at McCann Erickson in 1992, and when I was at J. Walter Thompson interning, right, it was still back in the second generation of the Mad Men days, right? The big idea that the one message is going to resonate with everyone, and it's just everyone's going to get this message, right? And now you have the ability to set your targeting levels to be by persona, right? So different personas get different messages. So you know, is there any best practice with regards to finding out, well, how niche do I go with my message? Do I still need that overall big picture message, right? That's sort of the part of your positioning and then part of the value that provide what a unique selling proposition, whatever you want to call it, right? There's that, and then there's the nuance that you add to your different personas, and you can get pretty deep. I mean, with AI, we could get down to one, right? They
Yeah.
could know your size. They could know the fact, that
Yeah,
you
but
have a
AI
beard.
works on data, right? Even if you're optimizing with AI in real time, right? AI needs vast quantities of data to, you know, so unless you're spending like $100 million on a campaign, right? Like you over segment, first of all, you don't have the data now for it
Yeah,
really to test and optimize.
yeah,
And, like when you just buy a Facebook buy, you are using AI to drive performance. One of the things that we see is like over segmentation, over too many creatives.
yeah,
They hurt the algorithm, right? Changing out your creative too often. Like, there's this thing I mean, Facebook is an important part of this ecosystem, right?
right.
There's a thing on Facebook that is called learn mode, right?
Yep.
And any digital media buyer, like the bane of their existence is this freaking learn mode, right? Because it basically it's gathering data, takes 3 weeks,
Yeah, it throttles your spend.
and
Yeah,
then your performance kind of
yeah,
starts to skyrocket. Um, and if you make changes too fast, or it kicks you back into learn mode, and then you got to wait another 3 weeks. So
yeah.
there's like literally like algorithmic reasons not to over target. And I'm sure that there'll be a lot of learning and experimenting that marketers are doing in the next couple of years.
Cool. Well, we covered a lot of ground. Thanks so much for joining me and pontificating on the past and the future together and how it all merges. Look
Yeah.
forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, me too. Thanks again, and good seeing you again. It's been a long time.
Likewise.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.